Alright, y'all. Really overview. Go by the name Red Rover. We about to react to a video. I'm just trying to test this out and see if this actually works. But anyway, Ruslan hopped on No Jumper, and you know, they were talking about religion, abortion, and all sorts of stuff. And I'd like to react to that. I think he did a solid job defending the faith. Let's watch in some of the segments that I screen recorded just to start off, because there were some points that I definitely wanted to point out that I think, again, he did a solid job in. And even there's a few segments that I've actually agreed with Destiny as well. And then, of course, he just kind of fell off the cliff later on. But anyway, I'd just like to just react to this. Alright, let's go. So,
lab in all these things. Now, what I'm curious about, do you consider yourself a fundamentalist?
Define fundamentalist.
Yeah, how do I title this? Destiny debates religious.
Like,
Yeah, like what's the best way to describe it?
Follower
fundamentalist.
of Jesus.
see right there, good reaction. Right, didn't get baited there. Just said he's a follower of Christ. Nice.
A fundamentalist means that you believe everything to its core. Like the word of God, the words of the Bible, you believe it to its core. You're unwavering in your faith regarding that, and you believe it to a T, and you practice it to a T.
So I definitely practice it. I would say as much to the scriptures as I can. I think when you get into fundamentalist, then you can get into young Earth creationism and the days in Genesis literal or they figurative. Are we, you know,
like gays are going to hell?
I think everybody who is dying with rejecting Jesus is going to hell.
See, right here. This is actually one of my videos. You actually go to one of my videos where I talked about how Jesus is not anti-LGBTQ, he's anti-self. This is basically what I was trying to say here. He's about to make an interesting point about certain people focusing too much on one particular thing when really we should be looking at it from a macro perspective.
So I don't think I don't think God discriminates.
For example.
No, I think everybody who isn't accepting Jesus is in serious trouble when we die.
Yes, sir.
Like that's the thing. People pick one thing, and it usually goes to that card, right? And it's like, no, I think the guy smashing his girlfriend or pimping his girlfriend is going to hell too. You know, I think
Smashing, just having sex premarital.
Yeah.
Oh, then
Yeah.
Outside of someone dealing with the consequences of your sin, yeah, I think that's so. But do I take all of the Bible literally? No. I think there's stuff that's in there that's poetry. I think there's stuff that's in there that's figurative. I think there's history. I think there's songs. There's so many different genres. And so what people try to do is they'll try to say, do you take all the Bible literally? I'm like, listen, we're reading a 2,000-year-old book that was written in Greek, Hebrew, ancient Hebrew at that, and Jesus spoke Aramaic, right? So it's going to require some degree of scholarship to approach it properly.
There's fundamentalism is.
Thank you. Thank you. So see, didn't get into the fundamentalist trap. No, he just said flat out follower of Christ, right? And then see, he didn't want to specify that it was just gay people going to hell. No, everybody's going to hell. And this is actually the message that I was trying to do for one of my videos when I was talking about Jesus not anti-LGBTQ. I was just trying to say that it's not just them that are doomed, but also anyone that rejects Christ, like he just said. That's exactly basically the premise of why I said he's not anti-LGBTQ+, but he's anti-self. So everybody's in serious danger if we reject Christ.
Something that you brought up earlier. Generally, when we watch movies,
now Destiny's actually about to make an interesting point here.
there's a structure to everything, right? You don't see random fuck characters on screen. There's not a random thing that happens. Like everything is like pretty ordered and pretty purposeful for the intention of like delivering some experience. We want to feel like our lives are the same way. Religion is nice because it's like the total package in terms of giving you all the different things that you need to live your life. Like if I don't have religion, I've got to figure out like how am I supposed to act, because moral and ethics are very complicated to figure out, arguably impossible. What am I supposed to believe about like the state of the world, like metaphysics and ontology? Like I don't know what exists or why, or if a tree falls in a forest, is anybody? I don't know like any of these things, right? You don't know when the universe began. You don't know what the purpose you have in life is. Like is there a reason why I exist? Like sometimes life sucks. Is there a meaning to that, or is it just shitty? And religion is a really nice way to take all of those complicated questions and then give you a package that addresses each and every one, such that it's the reason why even for people like you who like might not have like the strictest interpretation, that structure is still there and it gives you meaning to carry you through the shitty times so you can look forward to the good times.
Helps make sense of the stuff.
Right there. It's probably why I'm a Christian. You might want to consider it.
But you know what? When an atheist like me hears all that, it just sounds like
fuck you, shoot porn.
no. It just sounds like something other than a conversation about whether it's true or not. Because to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, because I think that's the.
I mean, if that was the case, Loki, everybody would be a Christian if we're talking about truth. Which is why Destiny's actually about to make a nice, good point here that about truth versus meaning. It's going to be an interesting point. I'll let it play.
Mistaken way to approach it. I've repeated this a lot. I think on earlier shows and here today that like people are not fundamentally truth-seeking machines. That's not what we're wired to do. I don't think that people go into religion. Now, maybe there might be like apologetics, other forms that try to like logically justify it, but I don't think most people are there like searching for truth. They're looking for meaning, and those might feel like the same thing, but they're totally different. I think, right? You can find meaning in a lot of stuff that isn't truthful or doesn't have like a truth component to the question. You find meaning in a lot of art, right? Is there a truth to how a particular piece of art is supposed to make you feel? Maybe not, but there can still be meaning behind it for a person. I think religion is very much the same way. So.
That, my friends, truth and meaning. So see, humans seek meaning. We're not truth-seeking machines. We look for meaning. And I think that that's actually a very good point, which would make sense why people would just kind of wander away into some odd kind of myth, right? Just an example, of course, like let's just take the LGBTQ plus or atheism, right? Any kind of belief that goes against Christianity, right? People will lean in usually towards those type of things because probably for them it leads to more meaning. It's not that they're seeking truth; they're seeking meaning in their lives, which then ultimately would lead them to this happiness, if you will, is what they tend to pursue. So, just a good point that you might have to be careful. Are you actually seeking truth or meaning? Because if you were seeking truth, then you will go where the evidence leads. Anyway, the real key point right here. This was a solid question that Adam asked. And they got into it. Ruslan and Destiny really got into it. So let's get it.
Bring him on.
Fuck with your soul like ether.
Yo, can I institute an actual debate here momentarily?
Between all
You two.
Oh.
Can I institute a debate on this topic?
Uh-oh.
Religion is the key to any coherent moral code.
Would
you say that you agree with that?
Um,
Because this is what I'm interested in. It's a
Interesting.
conversation about...
Thank you for pausing, finally. Good question.
People deriving their moral code from religion versus just from their own sense of what's right and wrong. Because I get the idea that you believe that religion is the best way to define your moral code.
So I would say there's multiple ways people derive a moral code. Most common in the West is Unitarianism. Like, what is the utility of said view, and does it benefit the most amount of people? That's void of religion, right? Before that, there's another word called the ontological perspective, which is just like something is absolutely right or wrong based on if everyone does it, the chronological imperative. So if everyone were to commit suicide, that would be very bad, right? If everybody were, right? You see where I'm going with that? So there's other ways to derive morality. I think God and Jesus and natural law is the most optimal way, and I would agree with that. But I think there are other ways people pull ethics that aren't just based on God. I just think God's ways actually trump and connect to all the other ways of how people come to ethics on anything.
Nice. Brought in the connection between God and just in general morality. Because if anything, humans have morals. We know that. Right? We were created in God's image. So of course we have morals. Anybody can hold to some kind of introverted value. Ultimately, Christ is the best moral code, right?
Oh, from the debate. Do I get credit for that, or?
I didn't. Oh, that's just funny shit.
Well, because he just said there's other ways besides religion.
Yeah, there's other ways. I don't think that's the. I don't think that's the best argument for why there's a God. Like, I don't think the best argument is morality. Like, I think you came to your own morals outside of religion, and I would probably disagree with a lot of them. But I think there's. I think it is a strong argument. Is that if we look at all the other ways of how people come to values, it still connects with Jesus' ways of how we should live.
Yeah, that's about right.
I think ultimately, at the end of the day, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I want to feel like two reasonable minds ought to be able to agree on a perspective, or at least share.
Well, yeah, this right here is where Destiny just completely just destroys himself. All right.
At least understand a perspective, if not agree on one. The problem I have with religion is that fundamentally, two people of different religious sects are not going to be able to have agreements on moral issues because the way that they generate those moral truths are fundamentally different. Whereas if I have like secular people that are arguing amongst like ethical propositions or whatever, I can try to get them on the same page because they'll be coming from secular backgrounds and they can have a debate on those fundamental, I guess, axioms where their ethical systems come from. Right? I could say that, oh, well, murder is bad. You gave a consequentialist framework, utilitarianism. You gave that as an example. Right? Two people might say.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously. If anybody comes in from the same background, right? If everybody, if you come in from the same background, or if you have the same relative perspective, like, you know, if you both are secular, well, then obviously it would be more easier to convince someone that has the same perspective.
Say like, well, murder is bad because in a society where murder is allowed, we create for a worse society because everybody's scared of killing each other and all that or dying. And I could get two secular people to have an argument about that and roughly agree because they're coming from the same place. Whereas two people from different religious backgrounds, if one says, oh, well, my religion says I'm supposed to kill these types of people, and the other guy says, well, my religion says I'm supposed to kill these types of people. Okay, well, let's argue. Okay, well, my God said that, well, my God said this. The argument's kind of over. So the incommensurate.
You can pretty much say the same thing about, let's say, any kind of religion. Let's go Christianity versus an atheist, right? We'll probably talk about hell, right? How hell is real, and you're just like, whoa, no, hell is. You know, some atheists are not gonna believe that hell exists, right? Or some other kind of commandments that, you know, maybe about forgiveness. Maybe, see, we'll be preaching about forgiveness and how we should forgive one another, but then some other atheists will disagree that we should forgive those that have committed some serious crimes. So it's utterly useless. If you have a different perspective, you will always be combative, by definition.
Ability, the non-compatibility of two different religious people to argue and settle disputes, in my mind, is a major fault with not metaphysical, supernatural belief systems. Because at the end of the day, we're appealing to something that is ultimately unknowable, ultimately unfalsifiable, but causes real-world disagreements in terms of how we treat people, and there's no way to reconcile those beliefs besides killing everybody that believes the other thing.
Yeah, but that's not New Testament followers of Jesus, right? They're not prescribing to kill anybody. So if we're looking at the New Testament descriptions of how one is to live, they reflect what you're talking about when secular folks disagree on murder.
Sure, that's true, but I mean, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, in any society, my opinion is the legal system is going to be the codified version of the ethics of a certain group of people. Collective ethics are going to be codified in law to some size, shape, or form. So, like, in more extreme, like, Muslim communities, you see things, Sharia law, or actually codified into their actual law, like gay relationships are illegal, or adultery is illegal, you get punished by death for these. I don't see any reason why a Christian society wouldn't necessarily follow similar things where certain people are ostracized from society, or given some sort of punishment for being gay, or practicing gayness, or being an adulterer.
Yeah, but you said the collective system.
Okay, but whether or not it's actually if they got good laws, or kind of depends on what kind of law we're talking about. Yeah, sure, as a collective, it's going to dominate, but is that the right thing to do? Right? Like something like legalizing marijuana, or I don't know, see, abortion, right? And they're going to get into that anyway. But abortion is not a morally right thing to do, but it's legal.
Society and the legality of things determines whether something is right or wrong. We would totally say Jim Crow was wrong in the 60s. It's wrong today. Slavery was wrong 400 years ago. It's wrong today. It's absolutely universally wrong to own people. Sure. Period. To kidnap and own people is wrong.
Indeed.
How do you feel?
Regardless on if the society is
I'm
cool
saying, like,
with
let's
it.
say that
Perfect.
Facts.
society was like 99% Christian, and somebody's like, well, we need to make a law so that you get fined every time you get caught having gay sex. Like, I can see a lot of people like, yeah, that sounds fair.
And what about?
I don't know how you went to that. I mean, we're talking about
Well, no,
slavery.
I was saying that collectively,
I mean,
99%.
right?
It's always the gay
What's
thing.
really on your mind?
Well, because Jim Crow is an easy gimme because everybody thinks that slavery is wrong.
Yeah,
but nobody's fighting with Christians today about enslaving black people. We're fighting over things like abortion or gay marriage. Those are the things that we're
But
fighting.
on top of that, there's also globalization, which was done under the veil of Christianity, which was...
Sure, I mean, colonial, fuck all that. I'm saying we have modern debates right now that the difference in opinion stems from a theological background, which is necessarily unassailable. I can't argue. If I want to have a conversation about abortion, the guy's like, oh, I'm Christian. Oh, well, fuck me. The discussion is over. I can't say anything to move that person.
Do you think somebody can have?
I mean, yeah, of course you're doomed. But I mean, if you have established truths, right? If you have established truth, there are certain values that are unmovable, and it's designed to be this way. Let me give a quick, easy example. Imagine I said, hey, yo, 2 plus 2, what is it equal to? 4, right? Do you want that to be changeable? I don't think so. I think let's keep it being the answer being 4. So in this case of values, let's say, for example, abortion that they're going to get into, right? It's better to just be pro-life, and that's it. Period. There's nothing that's going to change that. Just like how 2 plus 2 equals 4. We're not going to change that. It's just that simple.
Have a pro-life position without bringing God into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think a person that has brought God in, but a person with a pro-life position that hasn't brought God into it could be argued to a pro-choice position. Same thing, a pro-choice person without God could be argued to a pro-life position. But if they have God, the fixation there is going to cause in my opinion, a static grounding for the morals, such that you're not going to be able to convince them. Because if I argue with somebody, it's like, oh, why are you pro-life? I'm like, well, I believe that humanity begins at the moment of conception, and that's my secular background. Oh, cool, let's have a conversation about that. But if somebody says, oh, I'm religious, oh, the conversation's over. I'm never changing your opinion.
Okay, I mean, obviously, if you say something like that, that's not really the best kind of argument. Absolutely. But even a Christian or any religious person can still derive a good reason for why to be pro-life without even bringing God, which Ruslan's about to get into. He's about to bring up some good points here. Let's listen.
I think ending and murdering and ending a human life is wrong. Abortion ends a human life. Therefore, abortion is wrong. I don't think that's a very...
Sure, but if you get that from a secular point of view, I can argue with you over when that moment of human life begins.
I mean, biology says it begins at conception. It's unique DNA the moment the sperm and the egg touch.
Yeah, but biology...
So thank you right here. Just keep your ears open for this. Biology. Ruslan's going to be talking about how biology is pretty much the reason why we don't do abortion. You don't even have to bring in God. But, of course, that would be the final answer.
doesn't give us the moral consideration for a person.
Well, because you're saying morality is coming from the social consensus, and I'm saying morality exists outside of the social consensus.
Yeah, but you're
morality
grounding for that morality. I can't argue with you because you believe in God. I can never convince you otherwise. You have your set of beliefs, and that's never going to change.
I just realized this. That was an L take by Destiny.
Failure.
Us Christians trying to convince you, and you not being convinced. Like, come on, man.
My set of beliefs, though, is based on what is a human with unique DNA, right? So again, I'm saying we could remove God from it, and I was like, that's a human with DNA, and it's going to grow into a bigger human.
Well,
I understand.
It's a zygote, and so a 25-year-old is not less, is not more valuable than a 15-year-old, and a 15-year-old is not more valuable than a 1-year-old. And a 1-year-old is not more valuable than a 3-week, 4-week, 5-week fetus.
But it's about when you give the DNA like more consideration. When is it a person? Because a 25-year-old corpse you wouldn't give any rights to.
Sure.
But it's a human with DNA.
Okay. So you got.
I'm not trying to compare a corpse to a life, to human life. Yo, what is dead? The other one is alive.
Heartbeat at 5 weeks. You got 10 fingers, 10 toes at 7 weeks. The eyeballs are formed. I mean, have you ever seen a procedure of an abortion at 12 weeks, 11 weeks?
Nope, but I don't care. I probably have.
I would encourage everyone who's pro-choice to go look it up.
Yeah, please do. It's gruesome and disgusting.
That has no bearing on the argument whatsoever.
Because it's a human in there. That's the point, though.
Yeah, but the question isn't whether it's a human. The question is whether it's a life worth considering. That's the question, right? Again, a corpse is human, but we don't protect corpses because we're protecting human life.
Okay, because there's no life in the corpse.
Exactly.
The baby has life.
So, but we don't protect. That's the question. The question is, what is the life?
I don't think it's a question.
It is a question.
How is it a question? If someone has brain waves, if someone has 10 fingers, 10 toes,
well, so careful, because now you just said brain waves, right? So are you okay with abortion at 1 or 2 weeks?
Am I okay with? No, I'm not okay with any abortion.
Okay, so the brain.
Thank you. You're not okay at any abortion. That's it. We're not going to be talking about clumps of cells, man. That's just not the best argument here.
Brainwave thing wasn't true. When you said 10 toes, if a baby has 8 toes, it's still a human, right?
Sure.
So that part's not true, right?
Sure. What I'm saying is right now, we have the most liberal laws, more liberal than the EU. Okay, abortion has a hard cutoff in most of Europe at like 12 weeks.
Yeah, none of this has anything to do with what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
no, but what I'm saying is that's way more conservative than what we fought here for.
That's true, but it also has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I was just saying that your idea of abortion, the foundation for that idea, is a religious one, and that is an unshakable foundation. There is no argument that could ever, like if I were to ask you right now, could I give you any argument that would persuade you that abortion is okay?
No, you're not going to give
Exactly.
But that's because
Yeah, facts. And good. Please explain.
I've been on both sides, and I've wrestled through it, and I've thought about it, and I've watched debates, and I've heard the best of the best arguments.
That's fine. You
and
can
I'm
say
still
that.
convinced that that's a human in there. And if you leave it untouched, if you don't do anything to that, that is going to grow into a full-grown human.
Then that's fine. But I'm just saying that what you just said was There's no disagreement to be had. There's no argument to be had.
Yes, but that's irrelevant of whether or not I believe Jesus is the Son of God and bodily rose.
No, but the foundation is
Yeah, exactly.
a theological one.
The
Like, if I
foundation
ask
is a
you-
DNA one.
Well, the foundation is theological from where your anti-abortion beliefs come from.
See, again, this guy, he's trying the best to convince that, oh yeah, immovable arguments. Again, I've already said the example about 2 + 2 = 4. That's not something that's going to change. In this case of abortion, Ruslan is sticking to being pro-life. Thank you very much. And that's it. Now, of course, he's looked in from both sides, is what I think he started to explain later on. But, not even in the video, but the idea is just like, why do you want something to be movable if it's legitimately the truth? If it's the truth, it doesn't change. 2 + 2 = 4. Therefore, that's the case. 2 + 2 does not equal 5, not 6, not 7, 8, whatever. It equals 2, 4. That's it. We're not going to change that. So abortion, Christians are always going to be pro-life. It's just that simple. The Bible says so. We have to be pro-life, basically. Always. We have to. What can you do? More to prove anything? Nothing. You can only say pro-life. That's it. And then, of course, explain the reasons why you're pro-life and yada yada. But that is going to be the position that you're always going to hold. That we're going to hold. We're going to hold to that position. There's nothing that you can do. Just like you don't want to change the position of being pro-life. I mean, you're pro-choice.
My anti-abortion beliefs, my pro-life beliefs, is that I believe babies should be protected because they're the most vulnerable with no voice. That's where it comes
That's
from.
not the foundation. The foundation is going to be theological. It has to be.
The
religious.
foundation is
You
biology.
already said that nothing I changed.
Yeah.
Like,
But
what if we-
I'm
hold on,
sure
like,
you're
what if
not
I
going
found
to
a
change
gene?
your
What
mind.
if I found? No, I can be.
You can become pro-life.
I want
Yeah.
to. That's why I love you, Nathan. That's why I have 11-year-old kids. Because when my ex-girlfriend got abortion, got pregnant, I was not in favor of abortion at all. So at the time, I was pro-life. Yes.
So you would have yeeted your own child if you hold your modern
My
views
modern
now?
position, yes. I love you, Nathan.
I mean, that's for real.
Yes.
And you don't think you would have regretted that,
That's-
knowing what you know now?
Absolutely not.
That's insane.
Oh, hold on. I'm tracking. You have an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
You love your 11-year-old.
I love my 11-year-old.
If you had the views you have now back 12 years ago, you would have yeeted that child, and you wouldn't have regretted it. You
I wouldn't
had
have been yeeting the 11-year-old child I have now.
But
It would have
that-
been a fetus, right?
No, but because he grew into an 11-year-old child.
But
that
he
you
wouldn't
love
have
and
grown
talk
into
to.
the 11-year-old child. It's an incomprehensible question, right?
It's not an incomprehensible. He's literally here. He's here with you.
But
you
he
love
wouldn't
him.
have been 12 years ago when she was pregnant. That's the whole
Right,
point.
right. But now he's here, and you're saying if you held your position now, you would have
Yeah.
been pro-ending that child's life.
It wouldn't have been a child's life I was ending, right?
But it is. It is.
Oh man, see, it's not a child's life. Trying to diminish the value of the baby. It's not a child. And then you didn't say it, but it's just it comes to cells, right? Diminish the value so that way you can feel better to do something wrong, to do something sinful. It's a classic. Classic.
It
child's
might
life.
have been saying maybe back then I would have been pro condoms.
When
It
are
would have
you-
been the exact same outcome,
when are
right?
you- when
Well,
are
you
you-
wouldn't be asking me like, well, would you be pro condoms, knowing then that you wouldn't have your beautiful 11-year-old child today? Yeah, I'd be pro
No,
condoms.
condoms is different because it's a barrier.
I don't think
It's
so. It's
different
not to
than
me. But it's
latching
not to me.
an egg, latching and ripping it out. Now, was there ever a time where you'd have a hard cutoff for abortion?
Yeah, I have
did
a
you
hard cutoff
complete-
right now. It's around 20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you looked at a 20-week-old fetus inside?
I don't care what it looks like. I don't determine my morality based on things look.
Why not?
Because
Yeah,
that's
why
not a
not?
good answer for me. What does it look like?
Okay.
If a baby, no offense, babies look fucking hideous when they were born, but I don't think you should be able to born a baby at 8 months.
Okay. So you're cut off at
Again,
8
I love you, Nathan.
You're cut off at 8 months. You're cut off at
No, I'm cut off at about 20 weeks.
20 weeks. Why 20 weeks?
Because I think 20 weeks, because my definition for
Good
what
question.
is life worth considering is when is there the potential to deploy a conscious experience? Because when we talk about harm or suffering or avoiding harm, we're usually talking about a person that has an experience that knows what it's like to suffer, and that's what we ought to avoid. So fetuses don't seem to have all of the brain parts and the communication between the brain parts in place until around 20 to 24 weeks. So once that happens, once that experience exists, now there's something to speak about that's being harmed, and I would want to avoid harming that thing.
Would you leave?
My boy. Yeah, he's on that blunt. But you really do need to check out how the abortion process happens because, my goodness, they're suffering, buddy. You talk about suffering. That's a painful thing to do. I wonder even for the mothers that actually did this after, like the effect that happens to their to their brain after they just terminated their own child. Yo,
would you let that flesh out to its logical conclusion if someone is laid in a vegetative state? Do we have the desire to just unplug?
Yeah, and we do that.
Yeah,
Somebody's
but
brain is, yes.
against power of attorney and against someone's will.
Power of attorney gets complicated because we're not talking about whether or not that person is like a person worth considering or whatever. At that point, we're talking about like another person who's been vested power by the state to make decisions on behalf of that person.
Okay, what if someone's asleep?
No, because they still have the potential to deploy consciousness. You can wake them up. You can't wake up a fetus.
What if you don't wake them up? What if you just eat them and they don't know that they got yeeted?
It would be bad because
that would be bad.
It's a brain that already has the capability of deploying.
I think the key in what you said earlier is that it seems we don't really know a bunch about consciousness.
I know that if I wake a person up who's sleeping, they will become.
I was talking about the 20-week cutoff. We don't know much about consciousness.
No, but we can measure it about as well as we can in the.
A 20-week fetus doesn't have as much consciousness as a 30-week fetus. Doesn't have as much consciousness as a 1-year-old.
Well, no, but it begins to have the experience of knowing what it's like to be something. They begin to have that awareness.
So consciousness is the only way you would cut off.
That's right. Yeah, because that's when we decide when people are dead is consciousness.
Yeah, I think that's an incoherent position.
Okay.
yeah. Let me end it right there. That's just an incoherent position. I mean, my man trying to finesse all the way just to find a way to establish at what point can this man abort. Some odd shenanigans, odd reasoning. So yeah, you do not want to fall to this trap. Pro-life. Thank you, Ruslan, for defending the faith. You did a good job there. And indeed, that is an incoherent position by Destiny, but what are you supposed to do? That was a good question that Adam asked. I like that question. We're definitely not going to watch this 3-hour video. But that was really the only section, that was really the point that I wanted to get through. And yeah, I did like what Ruslan had to say.